Hello to YouTube, welcome to another May 4th Preach, another Star Wars video, because I like Star Wars still, in spite of aspects of the internet telling me I shouldn't anymore, because the new trilogy sucks, only I don't really think it does, except for the subject of today's video. Every year, I try to sit down and come up with a thing to do involving Star Wars, because, like I've said every year, it's one of my favorite things. I still enjoy it. You know, I still think it's one of the coolest things to ever come to contemporary pop culture. Its aesthetic is really dope. Its universe is filled with shit, and yeah, I'm gonna spend today talking about the last slice of the Skywalker saga and a point where it got a little fucky. I didn't hate The Rise of Skywalker still. I thought I had some decent ideas, but it definitely did not follow through with some of those ideas in grandiose splendor. And it feels like it's backpedaling on some of the ideas of The Last Jedi. It's trying to test the waters for ideas, only to pull them back, because maybe that's not the best idea. It's a kerfuffled mess. And I feel like it could be tweaked just a little bit. Some of the plot details could have been tweaked a little bit to make a better experience that feels more indebted to not only the trilogy it's a part of, but the saga of the Skywalker saga as a whole. And so today, I'm going to be doing what I've done before in the past, if you've caught the earlier episodes of the Wednesday Boys show, where I'll spitball an idea, I'll throw a concept for a thing at your guys' faces, and see what you guys think about it. So today I'm going to be spitballing how I would do my rendition of Episode 9.
They sold you to protect you.
Stop talking!
Rey, I know what happened to them.
One of the things I would absolutely do in the marketing is not even touch Palpatine. I wouldn't do it. That was a big mistake. I don't think having Sidious involved in some way was a bad idea, but the way they went around it was dodgy. I like the concept of the purpose of Palpatine in this film, but I'll get to that later on. What I instead would do for the marketing is I would continue to throttle the mystery, because there's one mystery that's been revolving around this trilogy that's continued to evolve as the trilogy went on. That's Rey. You know, in the first film, she was this sort of unidentifiable powerhouse who had just this shrouded mystery of past. And the second film was like, you're a nobody. You just happen to be special. And what I would do is I would play up the mystery of Rey just a little longer, because this film is going to delve more into that. I would play up the tragedy of the second film and almost the desperation of the Resistance to stop the New Order. I'd play up Kylo's seeking to do away with the past ideals and forge onto something new. I like that idea from The Last Jedi, and I feel like Kylo kind of tried to do that in this film, but he also just kind of tried to do a bunch of other shit as well. But I feel like Kylo is the best part of this trilogy, at least by the end of it, and I would double down on them just continuing to showcase his ruthlessness of wanting to go away with old ideas and forge something new, almost to an extreme degree, where even the New Order is like, or the First Order is like, maybe we should stop this guy. You know, and I would introduce a young actor who I don't know, and maybe you guys can help me out with this. I don't know, but I need a new actor to play in this film who would play a pivotal role in the story. He is a new, seemingly pulled from the dirges Sith protege. He's another strong Sith that kind of came out of the woodwork, and Kylo's story in this is not just to find the hidden Sith planet, but to to find it and destroy something that Snoke was aiming for the whole time. Again, a lot of mystery in the build up to this film, but that's how I would market it. I wouldn't market it as, "Hey, Palpatine's back, maybe." he thought of something else. It's Palpatine. I hated that. I hated the marketing for The Rise of Skywalker. I hated that it was like leaning on like half of the big trailer was like clips from the other movies, and like the other half, like the other like 30 to 15 seconds was new stuff. I hated that. I hated it so much. So I would have that be the marketing for the film, and then for the beginning of the film, the crawl. The crawl of Rise of Skywalker might be my least favorite text crawl in all of Star Wars. I hate it so much. And it's because, again, it's like, hey, fucking Palpatine's back. I hated that part about it too. So instead, I would make the opening crawl something like this. And then I would start the film similarly to how The Rise of Skywalker starts. I like the opening of Rise of Skywalker with Kylo tearing through the galaxy trying to find this hidden Sith planet. You know, I like that idea. It's a cool concept, and the montage is awesome because you just see Kylo fucking wrecking shit. But I would double down on him wrecking both sides of the fence. He is now this anarchistic force. He is this extreme dark force user who has no allegiance pretty much at this point. Like, he still has ties to the First Order because there's people that fear him, that want to follow him, like the Knights of Ren. But he is really just trying to destroy what Snoke was trying to harness. And that is Darth Plagueis's, like, immortality thing that was teased in Episode 3. I would make that a big part of this film because one of the things I didn't like, where they were like, "Yeah, Snoke, he's just a clone. He's just a clone of but Sidious." Hated that. So I would have Snoke just be a guy. Just be a Sith Lord who was a disciple of Plagueis. He and Sidious knew each other, but they never really crossed paths because they were on their own things. It's happened before in Star Wars with Shadows of the Empire. The bad guy, Lord Zildar or whatever, he was a disciple of Sidious as well as Vader. And they never really did much together because they had their own dark conquests they were on. So having Snoke be another disciple of Plagueis, he's old as fuck, and it makes a lot of sense. And in the wake of Snoke's downfall, we would also see another Sith protege step into the First Order like, "Hey, whoa, why is Snoke dead? The hell happened? What happened?" And the First Order be like, "Oh shit, it's Kylo Ren. He's a little crazy now. He's got a little nuts. His master died after playing mind games with him. He's not doing well." So this new, young Sith would step in and try to take control of Kylo's sort of section of the First Order. And he would be, again, just this young guy, popular actor. I haven't, like, my brain just keeps going, Tom Holland, but I don't know if that'd be a good fit for Tom. I mean, Tom's a great actor. I'd love to see him do something dark. But I don't know if Tom Holland would really be the person to cast in this part. But we're going to say Tom Holland just so I can reference a person to give him like a quantifiable physical entity. So Tom Holland's there with Hux, and they're like just shooting the shit, trying to find a way to overthrow, well, not maybe just with Hux, but with the other people in the First Order to kind of bring it back to the original idea, Snoke's concept. And while Kylo's tearing through the galaxy, he catches wind of that, and is like, oh, fuck this guy, he's going to ruin everything. So that's Kylo's whole setup for the story. And then we cut to the Resistance, who is still in shambles after running away from the First Order. I keep wanting to call them the New Order. And told me who you are. Thought I was mistaken. I thought I heard your words. From the last film, Rey's still off training with Leia. I like that scene. I like that sequence. I like having her training with her. It kind of instills Leia's importance to the Force still, even in Luke's absence. I don't mind Luke's sacrifice at the end of The Last Jedi. I don't think a lot of people are. A lot of people have issues with Luke in The Last Jedi. I really don't, but I like his sacrifice. I like that being a part of the film. And I like that it kind of would transition Leia into being her teacher. But I like that whole concept. And then her going to the Resistance to help them, because she catches wind that Kylo's like, hey, we don't know what the fuck to do with Kylo. He's this, again, chaotic force in the galaxy that we gotta try to find a way to rein him in, because he's damaging us as much as he is the First Order. And so she, because they have this strong connection that's been instilled in the films, starts to go on the hunt for Kylo. And the other guys kind of join in as well. And you do a lot of the stuff that happens in the movie. You go to the planets to try and find the place that Kylo's also going to so that they can stop him. Suddenly, as you continue through, you start to see glimpses of the old Sith come around the film. You know, I like the shot of the Star Destroyers coming out of the woodwork. I like that idea that was in The Rise of Skywalker, and it'd be cool to see that kind of come back as sort of a companion to the First Order, but something a little darker. I like that idea. You know, you could have a scene on that planet where Rey accidentally kills Chewbacca, which she should do. If you're gonna kill Chewbacca, keep him dead. Don't kill him, then bring him back. It'd be a nice gut punch that continues to instill some of the darker themes, or some of the sort of the urgings to the dark side that Rey was wanting in the last film, and I like that about it. And that's another thing I would continue in this movie, is I would make Rey still divided, still torn on where she is, how she comes to be. You know, her whole internal struggle I liked from The Last Jedi that was sort of planted in The Force Awakens, and I would have it continue being a more intense thing here by having her accidentally kill Chewbacca as she's trying to escape not only the First Order trying to track down Kylo, who is at this location, but the old Sith coming back with like a Star Destroyer coming in. And you see like a Star Destroyer in the distance, and when they find Lando, he's like, that's, what's that doing there? And he and the other Resistance get away, but as they're trying to get away, Rey kills Chewbacca. It'd be a gut-punching moment, it'd be a sad moment, and it would solidify some real sacrifice in this movie, because there's 3 sacrifices in this film, and 2 of them seemingly don't matter, and that's kind of fucked up, especially since they're older characters and they sort of use it as like a forced emotional moment. I'd rather have it be a real emotional moment if you're gonna have it. And obviously, while they're on the desert planet, C-3PO gets the thing, his memory, and they gotta go to fucking Babu Frick on the snow planet. Like, all that I want to keep. We get to a point where Rey leaves, and the rest of the gang is doing their thing, and she goes because they end up on that planet with the waves. They end up there because they realize that's where the last piece of the puzzle is. It's at this Death Star ruins place. And she goes there, she has that dark scene, maybe tool it a little bit so she doesn't have fangs. That was a little much. But then you have her fight with Kylo, and you have them have this back and forth, and I liked that scene a lot. I liked the scene with the 2 of them going at it. You know, that was a great moment in The Rise of Skywalker.
I also like how in the scene on Endor where they're fighting and she kills Kylo, it kind of symbolizes the death of Kylo Ren and the rebirth of Ben Skywalker.
Before I go any further with the plot, I want to talk about the other characters. I would keep the Poe Finn like relationship. That's a thing the fans all want. I would make that a thing, you know. And instead of him being sort of forlorn for this ex-lover, I'd make him defiant and like, hey, I'm in a different place now. I have this other person. We really like each other, and I would have this sort of camaraderie coming together of like the ex with the new resistance. I'd bring her in, but I'd make Finn and Poe gay. I don't see why they don't need to be gay. They have this chemistry. They have this relationship that they have in the first film that sort of carries over into The Last Jedi in small bits, but it also leaves Finn not chasing after Rey, a plot thread that should have been dropped after The Force Awakens, because he doesn't even fucking see her in all of The Last Jedi. So I'd rather just them be together, you know, like sexual fluidity, sexual, like, being stuff like pansexual isn't an abstract concept now, and in a galaxy far, far away where things are seemingly all over the map as far as different species, genders, races, I don't see why that wouldn't be a more open idea in a galaxy far, far away. So why not have the two of them be, like, pansexual and be into each other? I think it's fine. I have no issue with it at all. Still have the snow planet because it's a cool idea. I like the set piece. I like that it continues to instill tension because the Knights of Ren, while also working for Kylo Ren, are scouring the galaxy for him. It'd be a cool concept of them on the snow planet. Have the guys, the Resistance, have to go against them. You get to show the Knights of Ren being awesome because they captured people on the desert planet and they were like a patrol on the ice planet, but I'd have them continue to be like a threat because like they're cool looking, but they don't do much. I'd have them do shit on the desert planet and the ice planet, raid a village in the desert planet, continue to be a crushing force on the ice planet. You know, just them in tandem with Kylo, while the First Order just wipes everything in their path, and the old Sith is doing the same thing. Just a lot of destruction, showing the crushing force of the First Order trying to rein in their rogue, powerful Sith former leader. But back to Kylo and Rey. Eventually, I'd have them have their moment where they talk. You know, they meet each other halfway, and Kylo has that great conversation with Han. I like that part. I'd almost have him like plant a seed saying he knows who Rey actually is, and have that be sort of a weird moment in the film, because I don't want Rey to be a descendant of Palpatine. I don't think that makes much sense in the saga of Star Wars. None of that makes sense. Instead, when it comes to revealing who Rey is, I'd have her be a disciple of Kenobi. Here's why. In the prequel trilogy, Kenobi was a devout Jedi, which means he's basically like a Mormon priest. You know, he goes on his conquests, he talks to people, and he does Jedi things. It was pretty illicit in the prequel trilogy that Jedi were basically abstinent. You know, you could have offspring, but it was not in the way that traditionally it happens. And in the fall of the Jedi, post Episode 3, while Obi-Wan is on Tatooine, he could have had a child that he saw as a child of darkness, because she came from a time that he was not himself.
Which you could argue is what gives her her more darker leaning tendencies. Her draw to the dark side comes from her being sort of created out of something that isn't necessarily proper in the Jedi way.
Since he is this master of the Jedi mind tricks are kind of his thing, he could have done like a super awesome Jedi, or super like powerful Jedi mind trick to cloud Rey's mind to make her this ambiguous slate. She still was imbued with Force powers, but she was not as strong as, say, or she was not known, she did not know of her past. and it was impossible to find it because she was clouded so strongly. Her mind was, and her history was just clouded in ambiguousness because Obi-Wan kind of left a clean trail in the wake of Rey's birth. He took her to some other desolate desert planet as like a symbol of like, this is where you were born, and like, this is where you will die, and took her to Jakku. It may seem out of character to Obi-Wan for some people. People do drastic things. It happens all the time, and to see that come of somebody like Obi-Wan may surprise people, but he did it to keep her safe, because he was a rogue Jedi. So he sent her off to be safe. He felt remorse for having a child born out of darkness, given he was a rogue Jedi, but he also did it to keep her safe. He did it to make sure she did not have a target on her back.
And hey, that would kind of tie into the Kenobi Star Wars story show if that's still happening, you know what I mean?
That whole revelation happens, and then, when they get to the Sith planet, they find the guy, Tom Holland. He's standing there, and he's like, "You were not supposed to find me." He, like, takes on a completely different persona, and he reveals himself to be a clone of Palpatine. That's how you would do the clone thing. You cast a young guy, you would have him be this turncoat guy. You know that he's important to the plot because he's played by a big actor, but you don't know how he factors into Star Wars because the promotional material does not allude to that. But he either is a clone of Palpatine or is Palpatine having discovered the Fountain of Youth, of eternal life, and he is younger. And then you have this sequence. And I would have this moment when they're on the Sith planet, and he reveals that he is a young Sidious, or a clone of Sidious. Either or. Kylo's motivation makes sense now, because he's here to get... He didn't know that guy was it, but that guy is it. And they fight. First, Rey and this Sidious and Kylo, while coming here, he meets the Knights of Ren here at a separate time, and they have this difference at this point, because there's that point in the story when they're on the Rain planet that Kylo's not with the Knights of Ren. They're still out trying to do their thing. When they sense that shift in the Force, they're like, Kylo, he's not with us anymore. He feels like dark. He doesn't feel dark anymore. He feels like he's starting to shift towards the light, or some sort of ambivalence away from our ideals. And so they corner him on the planet, and that's when they have the whole Force behind the head thing, which I thought was also really cool. That was a really cool fight scene, and it feels like it gives weight to the Knights of Ren fighting Kylo, because the whole movie they've been together, and they've been tearing through the galaxy apart and together, seeking this information, and now they're at this impasse. They've got to fight each other now. They join together, they both fight Sidious, because you can see Sidious at his younger age, or this clone of a younger version of him, are fucking tearing through shit. Like, he is tearing through Rey. Like, Rey is strong, but there's a real power struggle there. And then Kylo comes and helps, and that whole sequence would basically be like the big climax. You know, Kylo would still sacrifice himself because the whole film has been tearing through the galaxy, wanton regard for people's lives, and so this would be his moment to sort of go back against that. Maybe even he would be the one to get all those voices from the Jedi. You know, just something to instill that he is true. The rise of Skywalker is right now. The truest point where Kylo Ren goes away and Ben Skywalker comes back, or Ben Solo embraces his Skywalker heritage, if anything, and becomes the voice of good against the old Sith coming back, and he does one last tremendous great deed, and then he dies. Kylo and Rey don't necessarily need to kiss. They just have this moment where their Force connection is at its strongest, and then he dies. And instead, when she goes back to Tatooine to lay to rest and go away from everything, instead of taking the Skywalker name, she takes the Kenobi mantle. Just because I feel like that makes the most sense. Her saying she's a Skywalker undercuts Kylo's legacy first off. But even if you don't kill Kylo and have him go there, then have him take the Skywalker name. Something to that regard. The ending of the movie is really dodgy. You can have them both train together to stay, but you don't need them to stay romantically linked if they both live. Whether Kylo dies or not, I feel like Kylo dying makes sense to complete his arc, but if you don't want to kill him, because you don't like that idea, then have him take the Skywalker name. But don't have Rey do it. Have her embrace her true heritage. She's a Kenobi. She finds out who she is, and I feel like that gives it a better conclusion to her story than just, yeah, I'm a Sidious clone, but now I'm embracing the Skywalker name. Like, I didn't like that part about it either, so I changed that. But yeah, that's how I do it, man. That's how I do the Rise of Skywalker. Like I said, there's good ideas here. A lot of the action in the Rise of Skywalker I really enjoy. You know, maybe not the hammy lightning in the sky Sidious, but I like the stuff with Rey and Kylo a lot. I like their action set pieces together. I like the actual environments they go to, and I'd like to keep that. I like the continuation of little pockets of resistance throughout the galaxy. I'd have Finn and Poe and Rey meet the other resistance troops, and I'd flourish out with the former Stormtrooper connection between Finn and the lady Stormtrooper as well. Like, I liked that about it. I'd like to, like, even having just them fleshed out more and talking about their past, their issues together, really hammer in how messed up the First Order's been throughout the galaxy. You know, because, like, they're there, and you understand that, but I feel like to keep the consistent tone throughout the film and to world build more, I do delve more into those aspects, because I think they're interesting. And I think they're what makes Star Wars a cool world to learn about, you know? Even if it's just like a flashback, like a war flashback of the younger versions of these Stormtroopers, like, going through the mind control process, seeing them, you know, go through the hell that they've been through, just to instill, because that shot in the first movie of Finn's helmet with the blood on it, that's an iconic image, and it's like a really striking image. It shows the darkness in the war of Star Wars, you know, so reinstill that in this film. I like the concept of a clone Sidious as well, or Sidious being behind the scenes the whole time still, because he was behind the scenes in the first two trilogies, so it would make sense for him to be here if you're really talking about, like, it's all poetry, if you're really tapping into George Lucas, but I do it in a different way than how they did it. You know, the Rise of Skywalker, I feel like, got a little bit of a bad rap. It's a fun in a film. I still think it's a little bit better than the prequels. I still think it has ideas that are better than ideas in the prequels. The acting I still think is better. The writing I still think is better. But it just is, it's misguided because it's trying to do all of these different things and please all of these different people. But, I don't know. I feel like it gets lost in the fray because of that. And I think, personally, this version is a little more cohesive. It follows threads planted throughout the other two films. Because you have Finn and Poe's relationship that kind of started in The Force Awakens and got a little stronger in The Last Jedi, completely culminate to something. Rey finds out who she is. Kylo becomes bad, or is bad, becomes a rogue, and becomes good. It just feels like a full story, instead of like two parts that kind of fit but contradict each other, and then a third part that also does its own thing, which is the biggest problem I have with the sequel trilogy. What did you think of this version of Rise of Skywalker? Did you enjoy it? Did it make sense to you? Do you think that I should keep doing these sprinkled into the Wednesday Boys? Do you miss these me pitching ideas in the Wednesday Boys videos? Let me know in those comments down below. If you did like this year's Star Wars special, be sure to give it a like. If you want to see more of my music, gaming, and general nerdy content, be sure to subscribe. Special thanks to my patrons who would like to join the ranks, get early access to content, get exclusive content, and help drive the community. It's linked in the description. I'm going to get out of here. I'm about to rack because of today's live situations, and I'll see you another day.